Hey, this is Dan here at Studio Blue. This is Pilates All Levels. If you have a mini ball, we're going to be using one of these guys today. You could also use a pillow. If you don't have it, it can all be done without it. If you have any kind of injuries or pain, please don't push through any kind of negative pain. We can always kind of modify it down. All of that said, we're going to start hands and knees today. So nice to see you. And the hands are under the shoulders, knees are under the hips. And we're just going to start by taking a couple deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you inhale, really allow your stomach to expand. And as you exhale, feel your stomach lifting away from your t-shirt without rounding the back. Just do a couple like that. So as you inhale, let your belly expand. And as you exhale, feel your stomach drawing up towards your t-shirt. Good. And just two more breaths like that. Inhaling, shoulders just nice and easy. And exhaling. And then last one, deep breath in. As you exhale, round your spine, feel the waistline draw up, drop the chin, and just hold in this rounded position. You might even rock your weight a little forward and a little bit back and just notice if that changes the stretch in the upper spine, the middle spine, definitely the lower spine. Find a place that feels center and then start to open the chest, lift the tailbone, and come into a gentle arc. So extending or arcing through low, middle, and upper spine. Yeah. And just hold here for a breath or so, and you really want to try to accentuate the extension or the movement in your upper back. And then as you exhale, again, round. And try to relax through the glutes, the head, the jaw. And as you inhale, open. So chest opens, shoulders glide down. And then find the place in the middle. Look to the left and wag your tail to the left. And just, again, hang out here for a moment. You want to feel a pretty big side stretch on the right while the left side of your waist is contracting. And then inhale to center, and then exhale, look to the right, wag to the right. Yeah, and then just hang out for a moment. And then again, inhale through center. So as you go from side to side, try to keep the arms fairly straight, right? And one shoulder is definitely going to lift and the other one will drop. That's okay. And as you go from side to side, just notice if the hips are swaying and imagine that all four corners of your limbs, so your hands and knees, if you created a box and you literally were inside that box, you don't want to sway outside of it. So you're only moving within it. And then once you finish to the right, that'll be your last side. And then find your center, feet together, knees open, come into child's pose, and just see how this feels at the beginning of the hour. Yeah, your arms can be forward, your arms can be back behind you, whatever feels better. And just take a couple deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. It's just a nice place to see how your spine's feeling, how the back of the hips are feeling. And another nice place to breathe. So as you breathe into the side and back of your rib cage. And as you breathe out, feel your waistline lift a little bit away from your thighs. And again, as you breathe in, instead of breathing into your stomach like a yoga breath, right, try to breathe more into the side and back of the rib cage. And that breath is important, especially when we start to get into our advanced abdominal work, because right, if you're breathing into your stomach while we're trying to work your abs are going to destabilize a little bit. So if you can learn to breathe more into the side of your ribs and the back of the ribs, the front of your abdominal wall is going to stay a little bit more contracted and give you more support. So just take one more breath like that. And as you exhale, roll yourself up, and we'll make our way onto our back. And it's Stephanie, correct? Okay, cool. Nice to see you. So down we go. If you have a prop, have it close by, just so you don't have to wiggle around too much to grab it. And then we'll have knees bent, feet flat. Hands are going to fully clasp together, and they're going to go behind the head with your elbows up in your peripheral vision. And as you exhale, nod your chin a little bit, curl the head and the chest up and pause. And initially, right, you might be off your shoulder blades, which would be great. If not, no worries. Just lift up to around that shoulder blade level. And on an exhale breath, see if you can flatten your lower back to the floor. So you're kind of tucking the tailbone under a little bit, the lower back flattens. And then as you inhale, let your tailbone relax down and create a little bit of space underneath the lower back. Just do a couple like that. So head pretty heavy into the hands. Exhale, curl. And then inhale, let the pelvis open to neutral. And just one more. Exhale to curl. Try to relax the glutes and feel your lower waistline kind of zipping up towards your middle and upper waist. Inhale, open to neutral, and then lower the chest and the head down. Now try to maintain neutral, and again, as you exhale, nod the chin, curl up around the tips of the shoulder blades, and then as you inhale, slowly lower back down. Yep, couple more like this. So exhaling to curl. Nice. And then inhaling to lower. And this is going to be kind of the foundation to all of the ab work that we do today. So if at any point as we progress and advance, if you want to come back down to this, totally okay, right? You're still going to feel your abs, right? Last one like this. Exhaling to curl up. Hold at the top. Reach your arms forward. And with that reach of the arm, see if you can curl up just off the tips of your shoulder blades. It's going to help take some pressure off the neck. Maintain that height. Take a really deep breath in. And then exhale, slowly bring your hands around to your head. So the slower you go, the harder it's going to be on your abs to have to stabilize. Once your head is heavy on an exhale, just lower the chest and the head down. And again, inhale at the bottom. Exhale, nod the chin, curl up. Reach the arms forward. Find a little extra height in your shoulders. On your next breath out, hands sweep around, right? The wider and slower you go, the harder it is. And then on your next breath out, slowly lower down. Good. So a couple more like that. Exhaling to curl, reach the arms. Yep. Hold there. Take a breath in. Exhale slowly, right? Take up some space as your hands come around to the back of the head. And then lower the chest and the head down. One more like that. Exhale, curl the head and the chest up. Reach the arms forward at the top. Yeah, now maintain that. Take an inhale, right? Don't lower the head. Don't lower the chest. Just exhale, hands to the head. Your abs have to work to keep you lifted. And on that next breath, lower down. Your abs have to work to take you down slowly. Now, if you want to add on imprint, right? Flatten the lower back a little to the floor. Float the legs up tabletop. True tabletop is here, right? If you want to relax your thighs and hips, you can always drop your feet down towards your the back of the bum. Exhale, curl the head and the chest up, right? Same thing. Reach the arms forward. Take a breath. Exhale, hands to the back of the head. Try not to lower. And on your next breath, lower the chest and the head. Legs will stay still. One more. Inhale. Exhale, curl. Reach the arms at the top. Take an inhale. Exhale slowly. Hands around to the back of the head. This time, stay here. Don't lower. Now, if your legs are lifted, exhale, tap the right heel towards the floor. Inhale it up, exhale, switch. Now, if your feet are on the ground still, instead of lowering a leg, as you exhale, you'll float one leg tabletop, lower it down, and then switch. Right, so feet on the ground is going to be a little more supportive, legs lifted, a little less supportive, a little bit more work for the abs. Now, as a leg taps down, right, as the heel touches towards the floor, it might touch, it might not. So if you start to feel your abs disengaging and your back arcing, you've gone too far, right? So even if it's just a couple inches of movement, that's fine. All right, try to really relax your head in your hands. So you're basically, right, you're supported by this hammock that you made with your hands. Take one more to the left, right? There's no rush. Yeah, once you finish your left side, lower the head, hug the knees into your body, and give your hips a bit of a rock from side to side. Nice. So abs should be starting to warm up. Settle the feet to the floor one at a time. If you have a ball, just make sure it's on the squishier side, right? So it's not completely blown up. We can lift the hips and take that ball underneath our sacrum. So it's in between the tailbone and the lower back. Now this can also be done with a throw pillow or a regular bed pillow if you folded it up. A foam roller would work as well, or again, nothing needed is okay. Let the lower back imprint a little bit. Bring one leg at a time up tabletop. Good, and you'll notice there's a little bit of instability if you're using a pillow or using one of these balls. Now you can have your arms by your side. If you want less stability, right? If you want to make it a little harder, maybe the arms come up to the sky. So things will get a little shaky and your abs have to support you a little bit more. Now on a breath out, take the right leg, reach it forward about 45 degrees. So you want your feet still the same height, and you really want to think of pulling your lower waistline in. As that leg bends in, think of pressing the back of the pelvis into the ball. And then left leg reaches out, allow the hip to open, feel the stomach drawing in, and then inhale, bend in slowly. So keep going with that, exhaling to reach. Find that moment of pause and then pull back in. Right now, if there's 45 degrees, you're like, oh, I kind of feel my back. This doesn't feel so good. You can always reach higher to the sky. You can always go back into heel taps, right? Yep. Yeah, and just make sure that you feel your abs, right? If you don't, let me know. If you want to make this a little more challenging for your obliques, right? If your arms are lifted, take them just a little further over your head and notice what that does to the base of your rib line and the center of your abs. Take about 2 more, right? Big full breaths, big on the in, big on the out. And just 1 more to the left, right? Once you finish that left side, settle the feet down 1 at a time. Lift your hips and take your ball or prop away from you. And then just lower everything down to the ground. The feet are going to be about shoulder distance with a little bit of a turnout, and your arms get to relax by your side. As you exhale, curl your tail, imprint the lower back, and slowly roll your hips to the sky into a bridge. Feel like your knees are reaching out over your second toes. The back of the glutes are on, the front of the ribs are pretty heavy at the top. And just take a big inhale. Exhale, take it on down. As you roll down, you really just want to feel like you're widening your back. And you're moving, right, 1 piece at a time, 1 bone at a time. Whenever you get to the bottom, take an inhale, exhale, curl, and roll it back up. So initiating from the stomach, and then as you start to lift, you'll feel the back of the glutes start to kick in. Feel some weight in the back of the arms. So the collarbones are opening. And again, take it down slowly. Yeah. So this wider bridge, this little bit of a turned out bridge is nice, especially if your hips or your thighs or your back muscles are on the tighter side. This will help offload them. We got 2 more. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. And down. Good. Last one. Roll up to the top, stay lifted. Yeah. So once the hips are up, just hang out there for a moment. Make sure that the upper back isn't overly arched, right? The ribs aren't super pop or flare. There's a sense of really dropping down through the top of the ribs, but still this sense of lifting up through the back of the pelvis. So your glutes are definitely on. Right? Take an inhale. Lift your arms to the sky. As you exhale, roll down and take your arms overhead. So start to feel a stretch underneath the armpit, maybe the front of the chest. All the way down. Clasp the hands together as your pelvis comes to neutral, elbows in your peripheral vision. Walk the feet in so they're about hip distance. And as you exhale, we'll curl up and over to the right and pause. So elbows still fairly wide. And if you can, try to be lifted off both shoulder blades. Tailbone heavy, pelvis neutral. Inhale, take it all the way down to the ground. And then exhale up and over to the left. And then inhale all the way down to the ground. Exhale up and over to the right. Good. 1 more to the left, and then we're going to keep adding on to this. So up and over. Right? Pelvis still heavy, feet heavy. Now adding on, the next time that you curl up and over to the right, right leg tabletop, pause. Make sure the pelvis is still neutral, and there's a sense of your left foot pushing into the ground. As you inhale, lower the foot, lower the head. Exhale to the left, left leg tabletop. Inhale, lower the foot, lower the head. So keep going with this one. Yeah, so just twisting from side to side. And just make sure as your upper body is moving, your lower body is staying pretty still. So you're not going into like a big tuck every time you twist, but the lower back and the pelvis are just pretty much holding that same position. So your lower abs are definitely doing some work as well. Yeah, nice. One more to the left. Good. And then once you finish the left side, if you want to advance, bring the legs up tabletop one at a time. Lower back will be a little imprinted now. Chest lifts through center. We'll stay lifted the whole time. And as you exhale, we twist up and over to the right. The left leg can reach 45 degrees. As you inhale, come back through center, curling a little higher. And then up and over to the left, right leg stretches. Inhale, curl higher as you come to center. Exhale, twist. And you want to think of not the elbow coming towards the knee, but your armpit. So it's almost like you're trying to cross the upper rib cage over. Exactly. Right? Now you can always peel this back down, right? If your abs get a little tired or if your back starts to take over or your neck starts to take over, definitely peel it back a little bit so you're working the target muscle. Right? And all of our muscles have a limit to the point where they get tired, right? Especially depending what you did yesterday or the day before. So take about one more to the left. Make sure you're still breathing. So big in, big out. And once you finish that left side, hug the knees into the chest, lower everything down, and send your left leg to the floor. The right leg is going to continue to hug in. We'll open the right arm and take that right leg over the body. So the palm is turned up, gentle twist, right? We're not forcing anything, just breathing into the sideline. And really trying to open up that space in between the armpit, the rib line, and the hip line. Now, as you exhale, keep a little bit of your waistline in as you come back to center. Right leg down to the ground. Left leg hugs into your chest. And just hold there for a moment. Open the left arm, and as you inhale, take that leg over the body. So my hips are always generally pretty tight. I always feel an outer hip stretch on this. But you might feel more of like an armpit stretch or lower back stretch. Really just kind of depends on where your tightness is. Take a big breath in once you're there. As you exhale, keep the tummy in a little bit as you come back to center, and then hug both legs into your chest. Grab the back of the legs, nod the chin, curl up to the top edge of your mat. So somewhere around the top. Now, if you have a ball like we do here, you can place it in between your knees. Or again, a pillow would work. Just make sure it's folded up a little bit. And we're going to grab onto the top of our shins, and we're just going to sit tall, right? Not so tall that you become rigid or you feel like your whole body's tensing, but tall. Now, give your prop a little squeeze, curl your tailbone, and just roll back until your arms catch you, right? And really let your body be supported by your arms. So your hips should start to let go a little bit. Your thigh muscles should start to let go. And then on your next breath, try to stay rounded as you come forward, like you're taking your forehead to your knees, and then straighten out the back, low back, middle back, upper back. Nice. Now, if you want to advance, you can go arms forward. It's the same motion. We curl the tailbone, right? The pelvis starts to roll back, the lower back rounds, right? And then right around, again, that kind of hand to shin line, pause. Give your prop a little squeeze, allow your hips to relax, and then exhale, round forward. So you might feel more abs on this version, right? Restack, sit tall. Good. And again, curl your tail so your pelvis is rolling away from your thigh bones. Right? Pause. So your arms are about parallel to the floor. The shoulders are easy. Take an inhale. This time as you exhale, can you take your right hand to your chest? You should feel your abs turn on a little more. Inhale forward. And then exhale, left arm to the chest. And then inhale it back to where it started. Now, this can also be done with one arm on a shin as the other arm moves. So you have a little bit more support. Right? Everyone feeling this? Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I am too. Nice. One more to the left. It should not be this hard, but man, it always is. Let's round forward. Good. Restack, sit tall. We'll do a version facing you. So again, arms forward. As you exhale, little squeeze into your prop, curl your tailbone, roll back. We're teaching our hips how to work but lengthen, right? They're lengthening as we come back. Pause. Easy in the shoulders. As you exhale, maybe right hand to the back of the head. Nothing else moves. You'll feel your abs turn on. Inhale it forward. Little squeeze, exhale, left hand to the back of the head, exactly. Now, if you feel like every time this hand goes back, your feet lift, just curl up a little higher, right? Or if you feel a lot of tension in your lower back, definitely curl up a little higher or use an arm for support. And then think of very gently pressing the head into the hand as it comes back. So you're creating a little bit of length to your neck, and this should feel like just like a little pow right to the center of your belly. Last one to the left, arms forward as you exhale, roll all the way down. Now you can use your hands at the back of the thighs to help, right? Or just take it down. Arms are gonna reach overhead, right? Take an inhale there. And then as you exhale, start to curl the head and the chest up, right? Give that ball or prop a little squeeze, roll up, restack, sit tall. All right, now if that didn't quite go according to plan, we'll try it again. Second time usually works better. So we'll roll back, so half roll back, or just continue to roll all the way down. Arms eventually reach overhead. Arms, head, and chest lift as we inhale, exhale. Roll it up. Yep, stretch a little forward. Now other things, right? You can take the prop away and lengthen your legs out, and that might be a nicer way to get up. Yeah. So trying that all the way down, all the way up. A band around your feet might help. Yep. Keep going. Yeah, you got it. Good. So we'll see if that does the trick. So stay soft in the knees. Yeah, nice. Good. So take about 2 or 3 more, right? And if the legs, right, just do not want to stay on the ground, go back into that half roll back. And that's just going to retrain the hips how to lengthen and open without them gripping. Yeah. I got it. Other tricks, you could use weights in your hand, bands around your feet, right? And then the next time you come up, right, there's no rush, come all the way up to the top. All right, if you had a prop, just take it off to the side. Nice. Lovely. Okay. So legs are going to lengthen out in front of us, and your arms are going to come back. And to start, our hands are going to point backwards. And we're not going to lift in this position, but we're just going to rotate the arm bones out. Hands are wider than the mat. Chest is a little lifted. So you want to start to feel a stretch in the front of your chest and the front of your shoulders. Yeah, and legs just however they feel comfortable, right? Just make sure they're fairly relaxed. And as you breathe in, really breathe into the top of your chest. You can use your breath to create more stretch in your chest and in the around the collarbones. And now take the fingers so they're pointing outward. Shoulders roll them back and down. So really drop them out of the ears. And then just hover the hips a little bit off the ground. So they might just lift literally like 2 inches, but try to keep those shoulders down and then let the hips come back to the floor. So the first part to this is just setting the shoulders, a little bit of a lift, and can those shoulders stay set? Exactly. Right? And then the second part to this, if it feels okay in the wrist, you just continue to lift. So I'm pressing into the heels, kind of like I'm going into a bridge. My hips lift, my eyes go to the sky, and then I take everything down slowly. Yeah, and just make sure at the top you're not looking behind you, but you're just looking kind of straight up or even just, down the ceiling slightly. So the neck just stays long. Yep. And this is essentially an active front body opener, and it's building strength to the whole back body, right? Yep. Now this can also be done with bent knees. This can be done on the forearm. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of get around this if the wrists are feeling kind of funny. Yeah. Then the next time you lift up, hold at the top. Nice. Just hold at the top. Yeah. Take an inhale. Feel your abs drawing a little bit. As you exhale, find your glutes. Press into your feet. Lift the hips up just a little higher from your bum. And then take everything down and stretch forward, right? And just stretch it out. So head towards the shins, right? Doesn't have to touch. Mine's not. Shoulders are relaxed. Take a big breath in, and then restack, start to sit tall. Now, again, if you have a ball like we do, we're gonna take this right at the kind of the base, the bottom of our shoulder blades, knees bent, feet flat, and the hands are gonna come together behind the head. Now, if you had a pillow, just make sure it's, it's a fairly big pillow, right? A bedroom pillow, you might have to fold it in half. Lower tummies in, and then as you inhale, let's stretch back. Keep your lower abs in, keep the lower back where it is, right? It's not overly extending or rounding. And then as you exhale, curl the head and the chest up. And Garrett, bend the knees for me. Yeah. And this can also be done with that left hand in front of the chest if that feels better on the shoulder. Yeah. And curl. Yeah. So again, try to keep the head pretty relaxed in the hands. The chin's not going to lift a ton, right? So we're keeping that space in between chin and chest about the same as we go up and down. And we're really just trying to mobilize the upper back. So we're finding some extension as we go backwards in space. And we're working the abdominals as we come up. So ribs are dropping down, the whole front of the waistline's on. And just one more like that. Inhaling, taking it back, some upper back or thoracic extension. Exhaling up. Good, hold here. And then imprint the lower spine, right? Your lower back, if you're on a prop, is most likely not going to touch the ground. That's fine. As you exhale, float one leg up, tabletop. And I'm going to say tabletop-ish because the knee most likely won't be over the hip, but you want the shin about parallel to the floor. Lower that leg down, keep the waistline in, and then switch, right? Keep that curl up through the chest. Yep. Inhaling down. Yep. Exhaling to switch. So no movement in the hips. Minimize the movement in the rib line. Yes, exactly. And you should feel, right, all four corners of your core working. Front, back, side to side. Nice. One more to your left. Right? Keep curling up and sinking through the breastbone. And as that left foot comes down, just stretch the chest back. And if you want to go a little further on this, just make sure it feels okay on your neck. Maybe the legs lengthen out so the hips get to open for a moment, kind of like a mini shavasana. Just make sure the head stays supported. Yeah. Keep breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then let's just roll off of that prop and we're gonna come onto our side, facing me. Any side you want, just make sure you're facing me. Have a prop close by. Good. All right, and we're on our side somewhere. Your bottom arm can be long. You can have a pillow behind your head, right? Wherever your neck feels pretty long. Knees are bent forward, heels in line with the back of the sit bones. Top hand to the top hip. Let this top hip hike up towards you and then let it drop down a little bit so you feel some length to the top of your waist, and then draw your tummy in a little. The top leg is going to reach out long. It's going to lift up, right? And if you look down, you just want to make sure your leg is in line with the rest of your body. Relax your foot. So you might have to kind of point it, really activate it, and then really let it relax. It's going to look like you have kind of a drooped foot. And as you exhale from the side of your glutes, we're going to lift up just a couple inches. And then as we inhale, we're going to lower down just a little bit below the pelvis. And again, as you exhale, right, we're lifting. So side glute only so high that this hip doesn't hike, and then lowering down, right? So this is going to work your abductors. Yeah. Now some tricks, if you don't feel your glute, if you just kind of feel the hip crease working, think of turning the leg out a little bit, right? Even though it won't, it's staying parallel, but think of turning the leg out, and that might increase the glute work, right? Try to keep relaxing the foot. It's sometimes a little hard, especially if you've done ballet or classic Pilates. Now one more like this. Exhale, we lift. Inhale down to hip height, and then let your top leg, right, sweep a little forward in space. Now, as it does, you might take your hand to the floor for more stability, or, right, more challenge, it stays at your hip. And then just let that top leg sweep a little back in space. So initially, as you go forward and back, side of the butt, right, side of the glutes are still working. As you go back in space, start to go a little behind the pelvis, so the center of the glutes get to turn on, the front of the hip gets to open. And then as you go forward, maybe take it a little further, hinging into the hip until you start to feel a stretch in the back of the thigh and the hamstrings, right? So just sweeping forward, sweeping back. You're going to have more range of motion to the front, and that's okay. That's normal. Rib line still in. And then the next time that you go back in space, we're going to hold back there, start to circle that leg up, bring it forward, bring it down below the hip a little and sweep back, right? So you have a full circle around that hip joint. And again, top arm can always come in front for more support. Yeah. And then for Cami, feel your top hip. Yes, you got it. Nice. Nice. So just check that your hips are staying square. They're not rolling. You're really, all that movement is coming from that top thigh bone moving in that hip joint. Yeah. The next time you complete your circle, we'll reverse. Yep, so just switching directions. And just nice and slow. Rib line still in, shoulders just kind of nice and easy. So really great, especially if you're a runner or a hiker or like to walk a lot, just to get the hips moving in 3 dimensions. Last 2. Let's check that the foot's still pretty relaxed today. Last 1. Yeah, and then bring yourself to center. Lengthen both legs out. So the legs are in line with the rest of your body, and your feet are going to flex a little bit, and you're going to use that bottom leg as a bit of a kickstand. So that bottom foot and bottom leg push down. Top arm can come to the front of your body to start. Shoulder rolls out of the ear. And then as you exhale, we're going to try to lift that top leg again. Now the top leg, eventually when it lifts, it can relax. And then inhale, lower down. Now you can take your hand back to the hip as you do this. If you want to challenge your balance, and just notice, right, without that bottom leg bent, things are going to get probably a little shakier. And we're going to add on to this. So the next time that you lift up, pause, flex your foot and drop your heel slightly in front of your body. And then lift, point your foot and drop your big toe slightly behind your body. Try to make contact with the floor. Lift, doesn't have to be high, flex, drop, lift, point, drop. And this is where a hand in front can always help with the balance. But what you're using here to help support you is your core, not just the front, but also the back line. So your back extensors, the side of your core into your obliques, the front of your core. And one side, when we do this on the other side, it might feel really different than this side, right? But essentially, just notice if there's a huge rock forward and back as your leg is going forward and back, and try to minimize that. And it might not happen today if this is the first time you're doing it, right? But just notice it, become aware. And just take one more to the back. Yeah. And then rest. Press yourself up to seated, switch sides. Just make sure you're still facing the same direction. Yeah. We'll start again on the other side. So bottom arm can be long. If you're using a pillow, grab your pillow. Right, legs bent, so knees forward, heels in line with the back of the sit bones. Let this top hip hike up towards your rib line to start, and then let it drop down a little. Top leg reaches long, it's in line with the rest of the body, right? Really actively point your foot, and then let the foot relax. Just let it kind of hang a little. As you exhale, that top leg is going to lift. Again, doesn't have to be very high. And then inhale, take it towards the floor. I'm just feeling awareness, right? The front of the abdominals are lightly on, right? Back extensors, everything just kind of working together. Exhaling up, inhaling to drop. And at any point, if you're like, I don't feel this, let me know. We'll try to find it. Right? If it feels grippy in the hip at all, imagine you're turning out slightly as you lift. Again, doesn't mean you're actually going to turn out, but just kind of picture the thigh turning out. You might feel more glute. Hand can always come in front if you want more stability. And just make sure that you're still breathing. And just check in. Is one side fatiguing quicker than the other side did? And one more like this. Right. Find about your hip height. Right, foot still relaxed, and then just let that thigh bone move a little forward in space. No movement to the hips or the spine, and let that thigh move a little back in space. We're maintaining that hip height the whole time. Again, just moving a little forward and moving a little back. And if your hand is on your hip, you can move your fingers kind of towards the inner hip crease, and as the leg goes forward, you're going to feel the thigh bone sink into that hip joint. So the femoral head sinks deeper, and then as the leg moves back, you're going to feel the femoral head move a little forward in that hip joint. Maybe start to make the range a little bit more, making sure the hip still isn't hiking, we're not tucking or overly extending. Good. Couple more. Right. Still breathing. And the next time you go back in space, start to circle the leg up, forward, down, right, below the hips a little, and back. So find that three-dimensional circle. Yeah, and if your circles get so big that everything starts to kind of wobble and move, right, just make them a little smaller. So find the stability in the pelvis and the torso as we find the mobility in the hip joint. And if you're newer to Pilates, a lot of Pilates is, right, we're stabilizing something and we're moving something else. So right now, pelvis is stable, rib line is stable, spine is stable while we move the thigh. Next time you come back, we'll reverse. So sweeping forward, up, around, and down. All right. Really breathe in wherever you want, sometimes exhaling on the harder part. So as the leg goes back, that tends to be a little less stable for me. So that's where I like to exhale, but you might switch the breath and just see what works better for your body. Good. Couple more. All right. Try to relax the foot still. I got to catch mine. It wants to point on this side. Last one. Good, and then come to center, right? You can just kind of rub out that glute a little bit, and then both legs will straighten, both feet will flex slightly. So just make sure that the legs truly are in line with your body. And if you can, bottom arm long, if you want more challenge for your balance. Now, top arm can be in front, or top hand goes to the hip. Top leg is gonna lift, the foot just relaxes a little bit. The bottom leg is pushing down, the bottom foot is pushing down, right? We can lower, and again, lift, right? We can stay here, and this might be enough challenge for your balance today. Or next time you lift up, flex your foot, drop your heel in front of your body somewhere. Lift, point your foot, drop your big toe somewhere behind you. So essentially, as we go up and drop forward, the leg is going into a little bit of a turnout. And as we lift and drop back, the leg is going into a little bit of internal rotation. Right? And again, feel, right, three-dimensional core, front to back, side to side. Everything's helping to stabilize. Right? And then can you notice, is one side different than the other? Right? Generally, you'll feel a lot shakier on one side. Good. Right, we have one more behind us. And then find your center and just kind of rub out that outer hip again. Nicely done. And then we're simply just going to turn onto our stomach, right? Just make sure you can still see me. All right, so once you come down, our backs are all very different. So we're going to, this setup will be kind of relative to you and your body. The elbows are going to be about 90 degrees in line with the shoulders. And the legs can be as wide as you need them for your lower back to feel like it can really just kind of relax in this position. Forehead to the floor or on a pillow. Shoulders roll out of the ears. Pubic bone presses down. Low tummy lifts. Now just hold here for a couple of breaths. So can you keep your stomach lifting away from your t-shirt while you breathe into the side of your ribs and into the back of your ribs? And it might feel like your breath just got shallower, right? It might feel like it's a little bit harder to get some breath into those areas. And if that's what it feels like, you're most likely doing it correctly. So the back of the rib cage, those muscles can get a little bit tight. So it's nice to bring some breath into that back body. Now, on your next breath out, just float the head and the chest up a couple inches to about the base of the ribs, maybe the middle of the rib cage, and just pause there. So the lower back really hasn't changed too much. You should feel some upper back work, upper back extensors, knees relaxed, pubic bone still heavy, and then lower everything down. Again, relax the shoulders at the bottom and then set the shoulders down and back, hover the head and the chest up. Again, just base of the breastbone, middle of the breastbone, somewhere around there. And then take it all down. So now the lower back and the pelvis is stable, right? It's still as we try to mobilize and move and work through the upper spine. Keep your lower tummy lifting. Keep a little bit of work in the back of the glutes. So pushing the pubic bone down should help set those glutes. One or two more, right? Just moving at your own time and your own pace. And sometimes, right, less is more on this. So if you tend to be really mobile in your lower or middle back, think of lengthening out more than lifting up. And next time you're up, let's stay there. Right? So letting the chin drop a little so the neck is long. On your next breath out, maybe lift the elbows, set your stomach a whole bunch, maybe lift the hands. So you want to feel like you're not just braced through the lower back, right? Your lower back extensors are working a little, but you really want to feel upper and middle back extensors holding you. Take a breath or two up here, ease back into the shoulders. And then on your next breath out, lower the head, lower the chest. And again, set shoulders out of ears, hover the head and the chest up. Again, doesn't have to be high. Anchor the pubic bone, lift your low tummy, find your glutes, and then maybe exhale, arms float off the ground. And on your next breath, take it down. So a couple more like this, right? Set the stomach, set the glutes, hover the chest, maybe hover the arms. Back of the shoulders turning on, really a whole back side of the body. And again, taking it down. Yeah. Now the next time that you lift up, right, if you chose to lift your arms, right, the arms can come up, maybe the legs lift as well. And just make sure that lift of the leg is coming from the back of the glutes. So the front of the hip has to open, glutes get to turn on, not just the lower back arcing, right? Yeah, and let everything come down. We'll try one more like that. So head and chest start to lift, belly's engaged, arms and legs can lift, and then just pause. Really ease the shoulders out of the ears, lengthen through the neck, almost like the crown of your head could reach forward. Take one more breath up here, and then let everything lower and push back, child's pose. Nice. And just notice how child's pose feels towards the end of the hour than it did at the beginning. And just take a breath or two, let the whole back side of the spine stretch, let the back of the glute stretch. And then we're going to rise up to kneeling. So our mats here are pretty thick. If at home, if you're on like a yoga mat, you might want to fold it up or use a pillow. But we're going to take our right leg forward. And this isn't necessarily going to be like a lunge for a hip stretch just yet. But you want to make sure that your back knee is pretty much underneath your back hip and your front knee is directly over your front ankle. So you might not feel too much of a stretch yet in that back hip, and that's okay. And if you take your hands on your hips, right, the right hip, try to drop it down just the best you can, right? Mine have never been square in 15 years of doing this, and it's just the way I'm made, right? They're never going to be square in this position. So I'm not forcing it, but there's a sense of drop, right? And then take one hand to your low tummy and one hand to your low back. Press your back leg down into the ground and then pull your stomach in and think of dropping your tail. And right there, you might start to feel a stretch in the front of your hip line. If not, it's okay. Feel some work in the center of your back glute and then take your hands to the front of your chest. And this is where the work is going to come in. As you exhale the torso, the upper back is going to rotate a little bit to the right. And I'm only going so far that I don't feel like I'm hiking my hip. Inhale back to center. And then same direction as I exhale, the rib line is twisting above the pelvis. So we're getting some extension or some rotation rather into the upper spine. Yeah. So this is a really nice way to wake up a lot of these smaller spinal muscles. You might also notice if that back thigh is still rooting downward, as you twist your ribs, you might feel a deeper hip stretch. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Everybody feeling this one? Okay. Sometimes it can be a little subtle, sometimes not so subtle. And really just check that that right hip as you twist isn't hiking, but there's this sense of drop. This is a really nice one if you play golf. It's a good warm up. You can also do the standing, like in a standing lunge rather than a kneeling lunge. So next time that you come to center, stay at center. Take your hands down to the ground on either side of your foot. And this is something that we can do on the reformer. So you're gonna kind of inchworm your right foot forward to where your right leg is almost straight, right? Almost all the way straight. And then I'm gonna flex my right foot and let my hips go back a little in space. Right, so, right, should feel a stretch in the back of the thigh and the hamstrings. Make sure the knee isn't locked out. Feel the back straightening just the best you can, right? And instead of tucking the tail down, think of the tail feathers lifting up. And if being on your knees doesn't feel good today, you can also come up to standing, both legs straight. My right leg is still forward. I can hinge at the waist, at the hips, and I'm still gonna get a nice stretch into the back of the hamstrings. It's just gonna take all of the load off the knees. Yeah. So just a couple more breaths here. Again, in general, I feel like a lot of us need some hamstring mobility, myself included. Take one more deep breath. And then as you exhale, release that, switch sides. So left leg comes forward, right leg is down. So the setup, right, my back knee is just about under my hip. My front knee is over my ankle. I'm really upright in my torso. Hands to the hips. I'm trying to drop through the left hip and just the best it'll go. One hand to the tummy, one hand to the back. Take an inhale. Exhale, feel the tummy draw in. Feel the tailbone drop down a little bit. And then root your back thigh down. Reach it down into the ground. And then see if you start to feel a little bit of a stretch in that hip. Right? Hands can come to the chest, or for something different, maybe they come to the back of the head. And then as you exhale, we're twisting the rib cage to the left. Right? Really thinking of the upper spine moving. Right? Not too much movement in the lower spine. Inhale, we come to center. Right? Rib line stays in. Exhale, we twist. So you are getting some obliques here as well. Inhaling back to center. If your hands are at the back of the head, feel like your head is gently pushing into the hands and your hands are reaching upwards so you have some traction and a little bit of neck length. Keep that sense of your back thigh rooting downward as you twist. That should increase the stretch. Good. And you might feel that your inner thighs are starting to work or shake, or your deep glutes are starting to work or shake. Yeah. Keep relaxing through that left hip. Good. Last one. Find your center. Hands will come down to the ground on either side of your foot. Inchworm that foot forward. Now, if you had blocks or really anything, you could take a roller underneath you if you wanted to prop yourself up a little bit. Flex your foot, extend that leg back and hold. Sorry. So keep breathing. So make sure your leg isn't locked, right? Especially if you're really hypermobile. And feel the front of your thigh engage, right? So you have some support. The quads are on to help the back of the hamstrings lengthen. The foot's flexing a bit to help the calf lengthen. And then instead of tucking, really think of opening the chest and reaching the tail back. So you might not see much happen, right? But you might feel more stretch. And just check, is that leg in front of you, is it really turned out? Or can you keep it fairly parallel? Yeah. Take one more breath. And then release that. And we'll come up to standing just any way you'd like. Yeah, and you can be on the mat if you want more challenge, or you can come away from your mat onto a harder surface if you want less challenge. So the feet are going to start, I'll face you on this one. They're going to start about 2 hands distance apart. So about inner hip distance, maybe a little wider than that, but somewhere thereabout. Right legs are straight, but they're not locked or popped back. And then root into your left leg with minimal movement, right? Can you bend your right leg? And if you touch into this left outer glute area, can you feel some tone there? So essentially, this is your abduction that we did on our side, right? We've just taken it upright. Right? So if these outer hip muscles are working, it's going to prevent this, right? So it's helping keep our pelvis level. And then lower that leg, switch. So opposite leg is rooting down, opposite leg bends, minimal movement, right? Glutes are on. Now our other muscles working definitely, but this is just kind of our focal point. Yeah, and then switch again. Yeah, so again, rooting down through one. Yeah. And again, you're kind of avoiding like a big side bend or big hip drop. You can always hold onto a wall or a chair. Switch one more time. Good. Even notice too, is your pelvis starting to rotate back, or if you had headlights at the front of your hips, can they stay fairly straight ahead? So just relax everything for a moment. We'll add on to that. So left leg stays still, it stays on the ground. Right leg bends, there's minimal movement. Your core is in, right? Front, side, back. And if you touch into your left hip crease, start to reach your right leg a little back and start to fold forward. Doesn't have to be far. Hips stay square. And I want you to think of driving down through your standing leg to bring you upright. So here's your hip extension just from standing. It's going to inhaling to hinge, right? It's not a hinge from the lower back, hinging from the pelvis on the thigh bone. Right? Kind of picture that left sitting bone widening, or your standing leg, that sit bone widening, and then bring it back up. Yeah, a couple more. Yeah. Everybody feeling this one? Okay, nice. Just bend that standing leg just a little bit for me. Yeah, there you go. Nice. And then switch legs, whatever side you're on. Right, standing leg just a little bent. Core lightly braced. Start to lean forward, right? Hinge forward, right? Back leg reaches back a bit. And lift. So I call this one tippy bird, but essentially it's called a lot of different things, right? Basically standing leg balance, a single leg deadlift, right? Arabesque-ish. Waistline stays in, just about 2 more. Again, doesn't have to be far. You could always hold on to something. Last one, just make sure you are coming all the way upright at the end of the movement. So get that full extension. And then both feet to the ground, shake out the arms, shake out the legs a bit. And then take your arms up to the sky. Just kind of relax the shoulders out of the ears. You might have to lift them up just to kind of know the difference, right? So the shoulders can lift and then let them kind of settle back. Arms drop forward, nod the chin, and just roll down. A little bit of a bend into the knees. Let everything hang out. Let everything get pretty heavy. As you breathe in, try to breathe into the upper back, the middle back. And as you breathe out, try to get a little heavier. Bend the knees a bit more as you exhale, root into the feet, and then slowly roll up. And as you roll up, see if you can find that connection into the back of your thighs, your glutes, core, collarbones open at the top. Head comes up last, and we'll end you there today. Nicely done.